We are challenged. There is a dearth of electricity. There's a problem of transportation hike. There's a problem of expected inflation as a result of the war that we have no control of. But we will overcome it. We are a resilient nation that is very, very committed and resilient to the way of Almighty God.
And I keep saying, Iran that America is bombing is living a better life than Nigeria that America is not bombing. That's so sad. And in the midst of it, we are now making money from oil. Crude oil has gone to 98. No, it's not reflecting in our lives. But if you go to Iran today, 1 liter of petrol is still cheaper than Nigeria's 1 liter. What on Iran?
If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. There is a statement that has been circulating since late March, and it has left many Nigerians oscillating between rage and disbelief. At the 4th elective national convention of the APC, held at Eagle Square in Abuja, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stood before thousands of delegates and told the country without blinking that US-Israel-Iranian war is responsible for Nigeria's economic hardship, including the perpetual darkness that Nigeria has lived in for decades. And just like that, with the confidence that only a man shielded from consequence can summon, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria pointed his finger at a war in the Middle East and said, "That is why your lies are off." Let that sink in. Speaking at the Eagle Square, Tinubu described the fallout from the ongoing conflict among the United States, Iran, and Israel as an unanticipated blowout affecting global economic stability and insisted that the hardships Nigeria are enduring are necessary sacrifices that will ultimately lead to national prosperity. He said, and I want you to hear him clearly, "Despite the complex global economic and political environment and the fact that we are currently experiencing another unanticipated blowout arising from the US-Israel-Iranian war, we have made notable strides." Notable strides. In the same breath that he acknowledged Nigeria still cannot power a light bulb consistently in 2026. He listed superhighways and roads as proof of progress. The audacity is truly breathtaking. Now let us deal with the facts, because the facts are brutal and they do not lie. Nigeria claims an installed electricity generation capacity of approximately 13,000 megawatts. Yet, in practice, only around 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts is consistently produced, insufficient for a population exceeding 220 million people. That is not a war problem. That is not an Iranian problem. That is a Nigerian problem, and it has been a Nigerian problem since before the Iran-US conflict was even a thought in anyone's mind. In 1988, 38 years ago, NEPA installed generation capacity stood at 4,000 megawatts, with projections that Nigeria will reach between 10,000 and 12,000 megawatts by the year 2000. 38 years later, we are still generating roughly the same amount of electricity. Not because Israel bombed Iran, because Nigeria's leaders failed Nigeria, president after president, decade after decade. The discos that took over after privatization in 2013 did not inherit a stable system. They inherited decades of underinvestment, weak infrastructure, and widespread technical inefficiencies. Transformers were overloaded or non-functional. Electricity lines suffered frequent faults and vandalism. In many areas, meters were either insufficient or completely absent. The crisis was baked into the DNA of the Nigerian state long before a single American bomb fell on Iranian soil. And in Tinubu, a man who has been at the center of Nigerian politics for over 2 decades, knows this better than anyone, which is why his statement is not just dishonest, it is an insult. Tinubu himself, in the same speech, acknowledged the persistent challenges in the power sector, including debts owed to gencos and gas suppliers, and what he called antiquated transmission infrastructure. So which is it the problem? Is the problem Iran, or is it decades of debt and crumbling infrastructure that your administration and every administration before it failed to fix? You cannot blame Iran for transmission lines that were old before the Iranian nuclear program became a geopolitical flashpoint. And the opposition wasted no time firing back. Omoyele Sowore never won let power escape accountability, delivered a line that cut to the bone. He said, Iran that America is bombing is living a better life than Nigeria. That Nigeria, America is not bombing. That's so sad. And in the midst of it, we are not making money from oil. Crude oil has gone up. It is not reflecting in our lives. But if you go to Iran today, 1 liter of petrol is still cheaper than Nigeria's 1 liter. So what kind of a country are we in? Read that again. A country literally being bombed with sanctions, with internal pressure, with its nuclear site under attack, has cheaper fuel and more functional daily life than Nigeria, an oil-producing state sitting on top of one of the world's most significant crude reserves. In fact, that does not shame this government. In fact, if that does not shame this government, nothing will. Sowore, speaking on a separate occasion, also argued that the value of the naira has collapsed as evidence of economic mismanagement, saying the government from day one of its inception mismanaged the Nigerian economy, and asking bluntly who has benefited from the removal of fuel subsidy. These are not opposition talking points for the sake of politics. These are questions that ordinary Nigerians, mechanics in Aba, traders in Onitsha, civil servants in Kaduna are asking every single day as they fire up their generators, calculate how many liters they can afford this week. Because that is the reality Tinubu's speechwriters did not include in the Eagle Square address. Nigerians are not just enduring darkness, they are paying for it twice. First, with the electricity tariff that keeps rising, and then with generator fuel that has become a secondary budget line for every Nigerian household trying to survive. Veteran actor Pete Edochie recently disclosed that he spends roughly 40,000 naira per day just to power his home. And Pete Edochie is a wealthy man. Imagine what the average Nigeria earning minimum wage is experiencing in the same darkness. Tinubu told his APC delegates that the sacrifices of today are laying the foundation for Nigeria's prosperity tomorrow. But Nigerians have been hearing that tomorrow for 36 years. Every government has promised tomorrow. Every administration has produced an excuse for why the light is still not on. Under Obasanjo, it was the power sector reform that never delivered. Under Jonathan, it was privatization that bettered dysfunction. Under Buhari, it was the Siemens deal and the Presidential Power Initiative that went nowhere. And now, under Tinubu, it is a war between America and Iran. The excuses have been nationalized, the suffering has been internationalized, and the electricity remains off. This is what makes the statement so deeply, profoundly shameful, not just as a political miscalculation, but as a moral failure. To stand before a nation that has been failed for generations, a nation that has poured hundreds of billions of naira into a power sector that still cannot sustain 5,000 megawatts, and to gesture towards a Middle Eastern conflict as the explanation, that is not leadership. That is and abdication dressed in a speech. Nigeria's electricity problem was born before Iran's nuclear ambition. It will outlast this war unless someone is honest enough to say, the problem is us. The problem has always been us. And until a Nigerian president stands before this country and says those words without flinching, the generator will keep running, and so will the excuses. If you found this video valuable, smash that like button and share it, because these conversations need to reach every Nigerian who is still in the dark, literally and otherwise. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe, because we are just getting started. Until I see you on the next video, remember